On October 21st, 2021, Alec Baldwin was filming a Western movie entitled Rust in Bonanza Creek, New Mexico. Baldwin was rehearsing a scene with director Joel Sousa and cinematographer Helena Hutchins. Baldwin was seated in a church practicing a cross draw with a .45 caliber revolver. As Baldwin practiced pulling the weapon from the left side of his body with his right arm, the gun discharged. The bullet struck Helena Hutchins and Joel Sousa. Sousa survived, but Hutchins did not. An investigation into what was happening on the set revealed some shocking circumstances. Investigators say they found 6 live rounds on the set, including some in a photo with the woman in charge of gun safety, 24-year-old armorer Hannah Gutierrez. Additional live rounds were found in a box marked dummy rounds. Meanwhile, Alec Baldwin insists that his finger was not on the trigger. Tonight, we take a closer look at what was going on the set of the film with new behind-the-scenes video and images of Alec Baldwin firing a gun on film as we investigate the Baldwin movie shooting death of Helena Hutchins. I'm Vinnie Politan. Thank you so much for joining us tonight on Closing Arguments. And when you think about this story and this case and even this trial, central figure is Alec Baldwin. Absolutely. He's the man with the gun in his hand. And how it got there is a big part of what this trial is all about. Now, the thing about Alec Baldwin is that he's a very outspoken A-lister. Controversial to a certain extent, even before he shot and killed Helena Hutchins. This is a guy who would speak out about many different things and was no stranger to controversy and confrontations, etc. That's just who he is. That's his personality. He's a New Yorker from Long Island, and that's kind of the way he is, the way he's always been. But he's an A-list star. Make no bones about it. I mean, this is like a big-time star, movie star, TV star, and just overall celebrity and big personality. And in this case, we're talking about a big star like Alec Baldwin in a small film. And I think that's an important relationship to understand in understanding what was happening during the shooting of this film. As we've learned, it was about a $6 to $7 million budget film. That's what they wanted to make it for. That's small. That is small. Alec Baldwin is the executive producer, and he's the star, the absolute star. He is the big kahuna on the set. I mean, he is the one who, is anyone on the set of this small film going to do something that Alec Baldwin doesn't want done? Like, is anyone going to say no to Alec Baldwin? Is Alec Baldwin literally going to call the shots when he wants to? Yes, of course. Common sense tells you that. And tonight we'll show you a moment where it seems like, yeah, he's kind of pretty much in charge of this whole thing. And I think that's a big deal. It's a big deal for this trial, and it's an even bigger deal for his trial coming up this summer. Because what we know about the set of the Rust movie was that it was chaotic. People were quitting. Live rounds, negligent misfires taking place, people wandering all over. You've got an armorer who's only her second movie, 24 years old, and a lot of guns. It's a Western. So all of this created a lot of chaos to a certain extent. And this is based upon listening to the testimony during the course of this trial and listening to the interviews that were done by police afterwards. So it ultimately brings a big question to all this, which is like, who was in charge? Who was in charge of this movie? Who was in charge of safety? Who was in charge of the guns? What is the hierarchy? And who's making the decisions? How are those decisions being made? And who has the power to say, no, we're slow down, or we're not ready, we need more time? These are all the questions this jury has to figure out in determining whether or not Hannah Gutierrez committed a crime, and then again this summer, whether or not Alec Baldwin committed a crime when Alec Baldwin shot and killed Helena Hutchins. Today, another crucial day in Santa Fe, New Mexico. Here are some of the biggest moments.
First and foremost, an armorer's responsibility is the safety of the cast and crew, paramount above all else. Secondly, from that, it is to creatively give the director and the film the look and the feel that they want. You will wait until the scene is about to get to start shooting, usually no matter what they say, and they'll say, oh yeah, hand the gun out, hand the gun out. Well, you know to wait till they're about speeding sound. At the last moment, you hand off the weapon to the actor, the scene is shot, and as long as nothing changes, meaning no one leaves or nothing changes on that set, you can stand there with that weapon, observing the scene until it's time to collect it back up. And you always want to be Johnny on the spot. When that actor gets through with that scene, they're going to be immediately looking to hand it to somebody, and they'll hand it to anybody. So you have to be there and collecting that weapon up safely and securely.
Can that rushed atmosphere have an effect on the armorer?
Yes.
And talk to us about the effect that it can have, and in your experience, what the armorer's responsibilities are.
Well, I can say this, and this is something that I was also with my one of our very good mentors always told me. He said, if you're being rushed, that's the time to slow down twice as much. So these are just examples of muzzle discipline. You never let the muzzle of the weapon cover anything you're not willing to harm.
What is Ms. Gutierrez doing?
She's holding that double-barrel shotgun pointed up at her neck and face.
One more. I forgot the recoil stuff. No, right away. Let's reload. Here we go.
That conduct that we're seeing on the part of Mr. Baldwin, is that typical conduct from an actor on a movie set?
No.
Why not?
Well, number one, he's basically instructing the armorer how to do their job at that point, telling them that we should have had the gun a second reload, hurry up, give it to me, fast. This is that moment. This is that moment I spoke about earlier. This is that moment that you need to stop and say, no, I'm not going to hurry up, I'm going to slow down. And we don't need to be, passing off weapons this fast or loading guns this fast. This is creating an unsafe and nerve-wracking situation to describe it in more layman's terms. Rushing with firearms and telling someone to rush with firearms is not normal nor accepted.
You didn't see 6.
I don't recall seeing her fully rotating the cylinder.
Even though the cylinder wasn't fully rotated, did you let that safety check sort of pass?
I did.
Okay. And what's your recollection about what happened to the gun after that?
She took a few steps to Mr. Baldwin and gave Ms. Baldwin the gun.
Were you criminally charged in this case?
I was.
And did you enter a no contest plea to negligent use of a firearm?
I did.
And why did you do that?
I was negligent in checking the gun properly.
Wow. Dave Hall's one of the 3 defendants taking the stand today. Joining us tonight, Court TV legal correspondent Kelly Craft live in Santa Fe, New Mexico, outside the courthouse. Big day inside there, Kelly. Wow. Let's talk about Dave Hall, such an important person in all of this. He has already pleaded guilty or no contest to the charges against him. Right. And he testified today about checking that revolver that was given to Alec Baldwin.
Well, good evening, Vinny. Yes, Dave Hall. He was scheduled to testify, and today, yes, the state did call him as a witness. And as we were sitting in the gallery and the state called him and Dave Halls walked in, it was like a hush amongst everyone that was sitting there in the gallery because everyone has been waiting to hear from David Halls. He is the first assistant director for the movie set of Rust. He was inside that makeshift church when cinematographer Helena Hutchins was shot. And on the stand today, he talked about and told jurors that he was negligent, and he talked about missing some important safety checks. Let's listen to some of his testimony.
Well, I did not see Ms. Gutierrez take the gun from Mr. Baldwin, but she appeared back on my left-hand side, and she said that she had put dummy rounds into the revolver.
And at that point in time, was another safety check done?
She opened up the latch to the revolver. I recall seeing 3 to 4 what I believe to be dummy rounds. I had seen the dummy rounds before.
And when you say you saw them before, are you talking about that day or?
Before that day.
Okay, and let me ask you, under what circumstances would you have seen the dummy rounds if the only other time that guns were dummied up was a rifle?
Yes, and I believe on that day, I did see those dummy rounds on her cart.
Okay, so you were familiar with what they looked like?
They had a very distinctive, bright brass end to it. What would be the end of the bottom of the shell casing, and all the primers were depressed, meaning that this has already been a bullet that has been fired. And
But sir, let me ask you, you indicated that you only saw 3 or 4. You didn't see 6.
I don't recall her fully rotating the cylinder.
Okay. You don't recall her fully rotating it?
I do not.
Okay. And even though the cylinder wasn't fully rotated, did you let that safety check sort of pass?
I did.
Okay. And what's your recollection about what happened to the gun after that?
She took the few steps to Mr. Baldwin and gave Ms. Baldwin the gun.
Halls had a hard time making his way through a lot of the testimony. Vinny, at times wiping away tears, pausing. He did say that he is not a gun owner. He doesn't have a lot of experience, if any, with firearms. As part of his plea agreement, though, he was required to take a firearms safety course.
Okay, now in that last clip that we just heard, and this surprised me a little bit, he is saying that he gave the gun back to Hannah Gutierrez. He didn't retain the gun. He didn't give the gun to Alec Baldwin?
Vinny, yeah, that's a great question. And we did talk with the special prosecutor, Carrie Morrissey, after court today just to get her take on what was said on the stand. So we can remember that Hannah Gutierrez, she has said in a police interview that she gave the gun to David Halls, and then David Halls gave the gun to Alec Baldwin. Let's play that for our viewers, and then we can talk a little bit about it.
I handed it directly to him. Or did you hand it to Dave?
I handed it to Dave after lunch.
And then Dave gave it to us.
Yeah.
Do you know?
Alec was in there.
Now, Alec Baldwin has told police that Hannah Gutierrez gave him the gun, but then he has also said in a prior interview that Dave Halls gave him the gun. Let's play that.
In there, she disarms me. We go to lunch. We come back from lunch, and they hand me the revolver, the Colt.
And I just like so mean. It's Hannah again.
They arm me, and you're assuming, as we've done every time, that it's a cold gun for the rehearsal.
So sometimes you would hand the gun to Halls, but you never, he never handed the gun to you.
No.
Okay.
No, never.
Right before this incident, Hannah handed you the gun and said, cold. It wasn't Dave.
I don't mean cold. No, Hannah handed me the gun.
Okay. It wasn't anybody else but Hannah.
No, Hannah handed me the gun.
And David Halls was asked about this on cross-examination, Vinny, saying that Alec Baldwin had changed his story because he had said that David Halls handed him the gun, but then he changed it to Hannah Gutierrez. handed me the gun. So as I was talking with Special Prosecutor Carrie Morrissey, she said, that's something the jurors are going to have to figure out. Obviously, the jurors are the trier of fact, Vinny, as you know, in a jury trial, bench trial, the judge is the trier of fact. So here the juries are really going to have to sort this out as to who exactly gave Alec Baldwin the gun.
To me, that's amazing that we don't know who handed Alec Baldwin the gun. It's not like 100% clear. It's not easy to determine. It could be Hannah, it could be Dave Halls. Wow. That makes, I don't know. I've never been on a movie set, so I don't know how it works. We're bringing in some guests in the next segment who spent a lot of time there. I don't understand why it's not like standard, like this is the person who hands the gun to the actor. Now, Dave Halls, something else, emotional today, and you mentioned that. I mean, real emotion from him on the witness stand.
Very emotional, and I got a chance to talk with two of Helena Hutchins' friends that were sitting there in the gallery. Vinny, one was clenching Helena's purple hat. Another one was wearing Helena's black Nirvana t-shirt that Helena's husband had given to her. They were wiping away tears. They told me that they wanted to bring pieces of Helena here in the courtroom in Santa Fe. And they sat there and listened. They told me they wanted to hear what happened. So they wanted to hear from David Halls. He was emotional, talking about things. Let's listen to more of his testimony.
Ms. Hutchins is to my left, maybe 3 feet. 3 feet away. Yeah, it was my recollection that I might have been the first person to her. She was on the ground. Perhaps Ross Ego might have been there, which would have made sense because he was the dolly grip, and he would have been close as anybody to Helena.
Did you speak to Ms. Hutchins when you approached her?
I did.
What did you say?
Are you all right?
Did she respond?
Yes. She said, I can't feel my legs.
Really hard to hear that testimony. Sitting there in the courtroom today, I looked over at some jurors. They were having a hard time with that testimony as well, Vinny. Now, you and I have talked previously about Hannah Gutierrez and whether she was in that makeshift church at that time of the shooting, and she was not in there. And we have talked about, well, was that because of COVID restrictions? Now, David Halls on the stand today did say that there were some COVID restrictions in place to limit some people in certain parts when they were filming, but not Hannah Gutierrez. He thought, he had no idea that Hannah Gutierrez was not in that makeshift church when that shooting took place.
And again, that doesn't make much sense either. At least I don't think it does. We're going to speak to our experts coming up on why the armorer wouldn't be there where the gun is. You know, off camera, but close by where the gun is. We heard from another important witness today, someone whose name, and we talked about her a lot last night, Sarah Zachry, who also has a lot of responsibility on this set and had some responsibility for the guns and the props and everything else. So how about her testimony today?
So she's an extremely important witness here because defense counsel has pointed the finger at Sarah Zachry. She was emotional on the stand. Special Prosecutor Carrie Morrissey asked her, have you ever testified in a court of law? She said no. Let's play some of her testimony now.
At some point that there were some accidental discharges on the set. Do you recall those?
Correct, yeah.
Did one of them involve you?
Yes.
Can you just explain to the jury what the circumstances were of that accidental discharge?
Yes. So we had a gunfight between a few different actors where I was helping to load blanks, and And when we were going in for another take, I had to unload the blanks that were already discharged and fill the gun with new ones. And as I was loading them and locking the gun back into place, the hammer slipped from my thumb and one of the rounds went off. There is no projectile, so it was just a loud pop and a flash.
Do you recall where Ms. Gutierrez was, the reason that you were doing it and not her?
I believe at that point she was in the bathroom.
And did that incident create any kind of a conflict between you and Ms. Gutierrez?
She just didn't know if I would be capable to work with guns anymore after that, even though I had cleared everything that happened on set. I apologized to everyone. I messaged the people I need to let them know what happened. But I mean, there was just a little bit of disagreement, but then we moved on.
Now, during Hannah Gutierrez's second interview with police, she really was pointing the finger at Sarah Zachry. Let's play that now.
She was there first that morning.
Sarah? Yeah. Okay.
That's when that box came up for the first time.
Yeah. Also, you know, it could have been there over the weekend. But you had seen it because it was sitting on top of...
That morning, right?
Yeah, I saw it that morning. Okay. On top of all my stuff.
When she got there, it was intersection 640-ish, and Sarah's already been there. That's the first time that box.
That I saw it, at least. And like I said, I thought it was weird that it wasn't hunched over on any side, considering the whole prop truck got moved.
And now, Vinny, one thing that I really thought stood out today when Sarah Zachry was on the stand, she was asked about throwing away dummy rounds after that fatal shot of Helena Hutchins. Now, she didn't know at the time that Helena Hutchins was going to soon thereafter pass away. But she got rid of evidence, and she was asked about that on the stand. How defense counsel is going to cross-examine her on that, we have to wait and see. That will take place tomorrow, but the prosecutor did ask her about that. Why did you throw away dummy rounds immediately after you heard that shot? On the stand, on direct examination, she said that she panicked. She didn't know what to do. She also called Seth Kenny, one of the suppliers of the ammunition on the set. I think that's going to be really important, and I'm looking forward to seeing how defense counsel cross-examines her on that, because why are you throwing things away?
Yeah, that's problematic, very problematic. We shall see. Kelly Craft doing great reporting, as always, in Santa Fe, New Mexico tonight. Thank you so much, Kelly.